Last night, looking out my hotel, big plume of smoke, and I believe it was a construction site that had caught fire. And you know, the focus on, maybe it's my algorithm on social media, but everybody is posting about we're at the NFPA convention in Las Vegas, and just shows you how important you know, fire protection is. To look out my window and look at this massive fire that's happened. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Fire Sprinkler Podcast. I took a quick 3-week break from posting anything. In that time, I went to the NFPA convention in Las Vegas and helped a couple buddies out with an event called Borderfest here in Sarnia, Ontario. I still have NFPA mugs. They're going to be coming out with another giveaway soon. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I'm going to start posting videos that I recorded from the NFPA conference live in Las Vegas, Nevada. So stay tuned. Thanks everybody for the support. www.firesprinklerpodcast.com. Help start rolling in donations for the Laying It Down for Camp Bucko fundraiser I'm doing. Check out the website for more information. Here we go.
Like and subscribe.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Fire Sprinkler Podcast. Still at the Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas. I'm with NFPA again, Brian O'Connor. How's it going today?
Great to be here. I'm so excited about NFPA's Conference and Expo. It's great to be back in Vegas. I feel like we're finally hitting our stretch and back into the swing of things.
Last year was really good at Boston to have the event back again, but this, I've said it in probably every episode, sorry, but this does feel like the homecoming. Welcome back. The Expo's back.
Yeah, we call this our Super Bowl, and it very much feels like it. I've been running around all week, but it's great to be here. It's great to see so many people out too. It's honestly just encouraging to see the fire industry just doing so well, seeing so many people out there, and just seeing, you know, all the different aspects that we touch.
So before we get into kind of what we're going to be talking about today, tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do with NFPA.
Yeah, so I'm Brian O'Connor. I'm a fire protection engineer at NFPA. I work in the technical services department. So prior to that, I worked in our codes and standards. So I was the staff liaison for a lot of the different codes and standards. So I have some good insights into all of those. But right now I do a lot of content development, work on handbooks, trainings. NFPA Link's our big product that we're working on to develop too. And yeah, so a lot of that type of stuff.
And NFPA Link has been an exciting thing. It's been out for a little over a year now, maybe 2 years. I've had the subscription for probably 2 years, and only recently have I really started to utilize it and dig into it. I'm an old school. I like buying the books. I like flipping through the books with my hands, you know what I mean? Physically tactile.
Yeah.
But I've started kind of pushing myself. I put them at the opposite end of the book. My code books are no longer within reach. So I've forced myself to kind of use NFPA Link more, and it's amazing. The capabilities that it has. I'm very impressed with it.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, this is like one of the things that we wanted to do is just lower the barrier to entry to using our codes and standards, because they're tough, right? It's hard to read cover to cover and understand it. So we're trying to break that down a little bit more, make it a little bit easier to navigate, make it quicker to navigate, and just have easier access to everything. Again, I also love the books. I would always highlight, underline, put my tabs in there. The big thing with Link that I like a little bit more, and that's why I don't really use my books as much, is that like now it transfers editions in there. So I don't have to go like, oh wait, that was important. Why isn't it highlighted in this book? And I was like, oh, that was a 2018 edition. Okay, so helps me a little bit there.
Getting into the code books a little bit, the new standard that has it been released 855?
Yeah, NFPA 855 released 2020 edition was the first one. 2023 is out too, and that's the second edition of it. So again, starting to hone it and then make it better. And
that is kind of focused on?
Yeah, it's the installation of stationary energy storage systems, which does have some sprinkler guidance in there as well, but a lot of it's about the installation, doing your testing and maintenance, making sure you're doing your pre-planning. These are big battery systems, and they can be big hazards. We want to make sure that we're planning around them.
The kind of development, I won't say funny enough, but oddly enough, at these NFPA conventions, people in the fire protection and life safety industry from all over the world come to the NFPA Expo, and it kind of focuses on an issue that happens. Last night, looking out my hotel, big plume of smoke, and I believe it was a construction site that had caught fire. And you know, the focus on, maybe it's my algorithm on social media, but everybody is posting about we're at the NFPA convention in Las Vegas, and just shows you how important you know, fire protection is. To look out my window and look at this massive fire that's happened.
Yeah, it is, and I think that's definitely one of the big issues that's being addressed in some of the education sessions here. But fires for buildings and construction is huge, and it's tough too, right? Where like how how much can we protect and how early can we do that?
At what
And
point
try
does
to
it
find that
not
balance.
become, even, not to say you can put a cost on life safety and fire protection, but at what point does it become almost too much, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a balance to find.
So with 855, you're getting into lithium ion storage facilities now. There was an issue that happened in New York City just yesterday.
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about that and kind of what that means from NFPA's point of view.
Yeah, so what happened yesterday, and again, the breaking news, the fire investigation hasn't been done, but it looked like it was an e-bike shop, so lithium ion battery powered bicycles, caught on fire and spread to the apartments above it. 4 people perished, 2 went to the hospital, and it's something we obviously it's a tragedy, and something we're trying to prevent, look into. New York City specifically has been having a lot of issues with this. They track their statistics really well.
Yeah.
Last year they had over 200 fires caused by lithium ion or involving lithium ion batteries, and this year it looks like they're on track to exceed that by quite a bit.
And I believe I think they're at 116 or something like that. Talking to Sean yesterday, he had that number, and they're up to 116 or 160.
Yeah, and that's something that we look at our existing occupancies that, like a bicycle store.
Yeah.
It used to, we had probably some lubricants and some rubber tires there, but aluminum bicycles and maybe, some frames and things like that, maybe some plastics, but now we have a lot of lithium ion batteries, and maybe they're repairing the lithium ion batteries there too, and maybe they're not certified to do that.
Right.
And maybe they're someone brought in their broken bike, I'll fix it and sell it again. It's really hard to really find this because these electric bikes and these, we call them micro-mobility devices in the codes and standard because we don't want to make it easy to read, of course, but also it covers a wide array of...
Well, then you're talking about bikes, you're talking about scooters, you're talking about anything. Essentially, it's not just this isn't a scooter, this is a bike, so that obviously isn't covered in the standard.
Yeah, trying to...
So you kind of generalize things, right?
Exactly, trying to cover it all. But these things are unique because they are, unlike our watch or our cell phone, which could ignite a fire and be the ignition source, but it's not going to flash over a room by itself.
Right.
It's going to spread to the couch, and we're worried about a couch fire at that point.
Yep.
These bigger batteries, once they're getting to the e-bike size, they can flash a room over by themselves pretty quickly. And that's where the hazard is, where we're making sure that we want to get education out there, because I think public education is a big piece of this. People are using the bikes, they're abusing it. I've crashed my bicycle before, and guess what? Pick it up, keep on going, unless you're stuck in the middle of somewhere. So people are kind of abusing them, and just the education isn't out there for the hazard that they are. People are storing them, inside their apartments, right next to their egress.
Right next to the egress, that's what I was going to say. They're always right at the front door because you're not going to drag them, as much as you maybe should. Put them on a balcony, put them outside.
Yeah, they're dirty, it's wet. I don't want to bring it through my clean apartment, so I'm going to put it right next to the door. But I also don't want to leave it outside because it's expensive, which is another aspect of, I leave my regular bike outside because someone wants to steal that rusty thing, they can. But
that's a good excuse to get a new bike.
Exactly. But the e-bikes are a little more expensive. Again, you might not want it to be rained on, you want to protect it, you want to make sure it's dry for tomorrow. So oftentimes they're brought inside, which is again a big hazard, especially if it's something that, I brought it up the stairs, it fell down one flight of stairs, so I just pulled it back up. We're seeing some of that.
So we're talking more about bikes and scooters. Is that what's necessarily addressed in 855, or is that more talking about large energy storage facilities?
So 855 does talk about larger energy storage systems. One of the issues with those micro-mobility devices is that they are so mobile. You can be found anywhere.
Yeah.
855 talks about the built environment, so we're trying to say, all right, these permanent installations, and they define that as an installation more than 30 days, so they have temporary installations too. So for these permanent installations we're looking at, we want to be able to make sure that if it does catch on fire, that one, maybe it's on a concrete pad in the middle of nowhere, it just burns. Let's make sure that there's nothing around it.
Sure.
Or if it's in the, somewhere in a mall or a mixed occupancy, we want to protect that. That, needs to be able to stay, hopefully, in the room of origin.
From a sprinkler standpoint, I know manufacturers are working on a water-based solution, more geared towards the manufacturing side of things, but Reliable's recently released the LB11. What involvement did NFPA have with the development of that sprinkler?
So that specific product, I'm not sure of. I don't know if we had involvement with the development of that, but we did do testing through the Research Foundation, looking at what sprinkler spray and what is this going to do for certain size battery systems, because battery systems can vary greatly. 855 says, a 50 kilowatt hour energy storage system can be protected with the 0.3 gallons per minute per foot squared over 2,500 square feet.
Okay.
So we're looking at that being able to, and it's not going to extinguish the fire, but hopefully stop it from spreading, give people enough time to evacuate, and once they start getting bigger than that, we don't have the testing. So we kind of push that back on the user installer to say, all right, we need to make sure that we can find products that have been tested, find things that have, and when we give guidance for what testing means, right, it's not just light it on fire, put some sprinklers there. UL has some strict guidance on what that testing needs to be.
And I did have a conversation with UL actually yesterday, and they were talking about it as well. And the general idea that I'm getting is that it's not so much suppress the fire, but prevent it from spreading to the other areas, right?
Exactly.
Because that's the issue, is that with these lithium-ion batteries, thermal runaway is very hard to. So burn the fuel within that battery out and keep everything else nice and cool around it.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of a double-edged sword when we look at, because we want to protect these batteries from physical damage. So what we're going to do, we're going to case it in plastic, maybe put a little piece of metal on the outside, make sure people can't get to it, make sure it's secure. But now water can't get to it.
Now we can't get to it. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's tough.
Awesome. So what other things? The NFPA Expo. This is Boston last year. There was, I mean, if I'm looking at it, there was maybe 75% of the people that are here. And I don't think that's an accurate interpretation. It was spread out more, maybe the aisles were a little wider. But every day that we've been in the expo so far, it's been like, in certain sections, shoulder to shoulder, people, jam-packed in here. What kind of feedback are you getting from the vendors that are in here?
We are getting positive feedback, which I love. Again, I personally love walking the expo floor, seeing all the new technology, seeing familiar faces, seeing that it's growing year after year. This is our biggest expo year, so it's awesome to see so many new people here out exhibiting. It's also good for the fire industry, right? We see so many more people getting involved, whether it's tangentially, so saying, oh, we have similar products and we should be at that fire conference, that's where we should be, or new companies that are growing, so it's, seeing good insights for the industry.
I know in the history, and I was talking to Sean a little bit about this the other day, but in the history there was more fire department involvement, trucks, gear, etc. And I am starting to see a couple of those, not large displays, but smaller displays with not apparatus, but bunker gear and stuff like that. People starting to come back. So maybe next year we'll even continue to grow year after year. Yeah,
absolutely. We'll be back in Vegas, not next year, but the year after. And again, it's a good place to be. My hotel is an easy enough walk. Even though I do, I'll say easy enough walk, but
check your steps on your phone if you want to say it's an easy walk.
Everything just seems so big in Vegas. I'm like, oh, it's right down that hallway. And
that's right. When I was looking at where I was going to stay, it was like, oh, the Mandalay Bay, where the event is, obviously, would be good because I can stay at the hotel and stuff like that. And then I'm looking like, but there's a hotel that's dirt cheap right across the road. And then you just Google the walking distance, and you're like, 35 minutes. It's across the street.
It's a wide street.
Mandalay Bay it is. Well, you can't go across the street. You got to go up. You got to go over. You got to go an overpass, walk down the street, get through the casino, get through everything that's trying to draw you in. And I might not show up to the conference at that point. There's so many distractions on the way for a guy like me.
Awesome. And speaking of distractions, actually, and this is something I brought up in one of the education sessions we talked about yesterday, finding lithium-ion batteries pretty much everywhere.
Yes.
I actually saw a stand at, I think it was the New York, that it was a bunch of shirts with small LED screens on the shirts, lithium-ion batteries built into those T-shirts, and they showed some cool thing changing.
Sure.
And I was looking at them, I go, oh, I have to check this out. I have to look into it. Again, I stopped short of buying one, but
you should have. I mean, just
I could have worn it for this.
Could you program it yourself?
I don't know. I assume there's a lot of leeway for what you can do with that, but
interactive Fire Sprinkler Podcast T-shirts coming soon.
Wow, there you go.
Just a revolving NFPA 13.
Yeah,
They're just constantly changing the pages, and if you can get it to where it's touch, you can wear your coats. Oh my God.
Yeah, technology is advancing faster than ever.
I'm gonna have to cut this out. Nobody's allowed to steal this idea.
Proprietary information.
Awesome talking to you. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks for all the support that I get from NFPA. This is, started out as a little podcast that I did because I made a Facebook page, and it's amazing to have the support of NFPA.
Hey, you've kept me company on many long drives, so I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care.
Hey everybody, the Laying It Down for Camp Bucko fundraiser is still going on. The donations have slowed down, but the hoses have not. This sea can is starting to get filled up. These are the ones I just unloaded from the trailer. Those are the ones that were sitting here since last year. These are all still sitting here from last year. We're looking to get donations rolling in. In addition to those hoses that I just showed you, I still have a picture that I'm going to insert right here of all the fire hoses that are still up in Pickering, Ontario. Thank you to the Toronto Social Housing for donating 95% of these fire hoses, as well as everybody else from Southwestern Ontario and Ontario for donating hoses. But let's get those donations to roll in. The link is posted below. $20 a hose. Let's get some money in. Let's support Camp Bucko. Thanks, guys.